Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Welcome everybody to the Heal Your Hunger Show. So happy to have you here. It is a great day to be alive, and alive is what we're talking about today. How to protect against breast cancer recurrence. All right. And anything we talk about in this episode is going to be good for protecting against breast cancer, period. Ever getting breast cancer. So please stay tuned. This is an important show. It's short and sweet, to the point. My guest is from New York, and you can tell she pulls no punches. So I love Dr. Lourie. And also, if you are new to the Heal Your Hunger Show, this is where we get down and dirty about the underlying causes of emotional eating. And I have many people in my Heal Your Hunger universe who have had, troubles with breast cancer. And one of the number one things that feed breast cancer or cancer cells of any kind is sugar. So if you're an emotional eater and you're hooked on sugar, you got to hear this episode as well. Now, if you're not sure if you're an emotional eater, if that's a new term for you, I have created a quiz on my website where you can go and learn what emotional eating is and whether you're an emotional eater or possibly even a food addict. So if you struggle with food and weight, if you're somebody who has a lot of food cravings, take the emotional eating quiz and find out where you are on the emotional eating spectrum. You just go to healyourhunger.com and boom, there's a free quiz there. It takes like 2 minutes to take, but oh boy, you got to find out where you are on the spectrum and what next action steps you need to take, which of course, when we send you your personalized score, you'll get that recommendation as well. So on with the show. So let me just talk about who we have here. Dr. Lourie is a dedicated practitioner with over 3 decades of clinical experience as a naturopath, acupuncturist, and homeopath. She's helped hundreds of women recover their health and restore their life through her holistic protocols to change their life, but also especially women who have had chronic disease and breast cancer. So she helps women overcome, any troubles they have with their body that are certainly mystery illnesses, but she's really the go-to expert for helping to stave off breast cancer recurrence. I hope I'm saying that correctly, Carol.
Yes,
and welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to be here. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Morning, everyone.
Yeah, so good to have you here, Carol. And I really appreciate your work. At our Quit Sugar Challenge that we just finished, we had several women who had breast cancer who were very intent on quitting sugar, specifically because sugar affects, breast cancer recurrence and breast cancer, period. So, I so appreciate your support of our work here at Heal Your Hunger, both with emotional eating and sugar specifically. And I just love your work and all that you do to help women live in freedom and health. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And the important thing to know if you have cancer, whether it's breast, ovarian, gynecological, or any type of cancer, is that cancer cells, given a choice between oxygen for the cancer gas tank or sugar, glucose, they will choose sugar every time.
Wow.
Even though they have to work much harder for it. That's known as the Warburg effect. And it was discovered by a German scientist in 1928. He won the Nobel Medicine Peace Prize for that. So that was the beginning of the philosophy that cancer is a metabolic disease. And that means that you have an enormous amount of control over what is the metabolic environment inside your body, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. That's really interesting. I knew cancer cells fed off of sugar, but I didn't know to that extent. And thank you for sharing that. And anybody who struggles with emotional eating typically is overeating on sugar. Like it's kind of our go-to.
And sugar is not just sugar, white sugar. It's also simple carbs, right?
Right.
So, the cookies have sugar in them, but even bread.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, metabolizes as sugar in our bodies. So it's like our bodies think we're eating sugar, and we get that sugar spike right? That glycemic spike from carbs as well. So yeah, I wherever there was sugar, there was a carb for me. Like my favorite food groups were sugar, fat, and starch. Like if you get them all in one item, like a pastry or a muffin, all the better. So yeah, so let's talk about breast cancer because it's such a problem. Obviously, and it's and cancer in general. Can we talk about sort of like what are the markers for women just getting breast cancer? Like what are some of the risk symptoms or risk factors?
The risk factors, wonderful. If you have a family medical history, either first or second a family member, such as your mother or your aunt or your cousin, who's had not just breast, but colon cancer. If there is someone in your family who had pancreatic cancer, they've discovered that the pancreatic cancer carries the BRCA gene. So that puts you at risk for genetic predisposition to cancer. And those genetic predispositions are just that. It means you have a higher risk of possibly getting breast cancer, but knowing that information, first of all, you get put on a more extensive monitoring system through the standard medical oncology world. But from someone such as my perspective, there is an enormous amount that we can do to reduce those risk factors. And it starts with what I call my 5 steps. And I use this for when I'm working with women with breast cancer or women who are in active treatment or have finished active treatment and are on tamoxifen or aromatase inhibitors, or if, like we're talking about, if you have a family history of one of those cancers, or you have evidence of what I call estrogen dominance, and that could be very painful periods, endometriosis, ovarian cysts, excuse me, or fibroids. Those are all evidence of estrogen dominance. So what are the 5 steps? Let's start with that. They're very simple. And a lot of this supports the work that Tricia does. First of all, nutrition and how we nourish and feed our body is the foundation of our entire house, of our being. So we really need to divorce ourselves from the standard American diet.
Amen.
Amen to that. The more you can eat food that is not in a box or a bag, has not been processed, the healthier you will be. So I spend a lot of time educating women. I mean, it's amazing. I had one woman who didn't realize it wasn't healthy to eat a ham and cheese sandwich on white bread every day for lunch. She just didn't know.
Yeah.
That's what she was eating every day with Miracle Whip mayonnaise. So, I mean, this is, it's a revision, right? It's a whole different perspective. Personally, I have a salad with a little bit of protein for lunch every day. So
I'm a big fan of salads.
Me too. And then the second step is supplements. And this is a very big topic. I, first of all, love supplements. I think they're critical. And women always say to me, well, can I get enough from the food I eat? No, you cannot, number one. And number two, there is so much misinformation out there about supplements. People spend a lot of money on supplements, and the majority of the time you've wasted your money because they're not made to pharmaceutical quality standards. And that, I'm a supplement snob, I'm proud to say. I spent a lot of time researching and visiting the facilities. So I know that when I make recommendations, all of these products are made to pharmaceutical quality standards and are third-party testing. The third component of the 5 steps is emotional wellness and recovering from trauma. And there's no way around it that as we get older, there are bound to be traumatic events in the present or what happened in the past. And I had a woman say to me, well, first of all, I don't like that word trauma. I haven't had anything traumatic happen to me in my life. And I go, okay, well, let's change the word trauma for upsetting experiences. Have you had any upsetting experiences? Oh yeah, I've had a lot of them. And she proceeds to tell me about these quote unquote upsetting experiences, which were really very traumatic.
Right. Yeah.
So women tend to do what I call the frog in hot water syndrome. And this is true about frogs. If you place them in warm water and you gradually increase the temperature, they will boil to death. They will not know that the temperature's gotten too hot for their bodies. And I think women, especially women, that's my the group that I focus all my energy on, and I'm a woman. We tend to adjust and adapt and get used to difficult situations. Oh, I'll just manage this. Oh, it's fine. I'll lose this boundary. I'll say yes, even though I mean no.
We diminish and dismiss.
Right. Diminish and dismiss our own self-care, our own self-worth.
Yeah.
And that is very important to really take a good look at how you've done that in the past. Do you have any upsetting experiences that could have happened 25 years ago? A woman said, oh yeah, I had this happen, but it's not why I'm ill now. And I go, well, actually, yes.
Right.
Right. And how can you begin to really get rid of friends who suck energy from you as opposed to nourish you? And that is a big step. And then the fourth of the fifth steps is looking under the hood of your car, so to speak, with advanced functional medicine testing. Now, when you go to your medical oncologist or your regular medical doctor, they do a top level, what I call blood work. They do a comprehensive blood panel to see if you're anemic and a CBC and look a little bit, but breast cancer is a metabolic disease. So I want to know in detail what's happening with your sugar metabolism, what's happening with your inflammation, what's happening with certain very specific markers that are relevant to how is your body living with cancer, handling your cancer. And the fifth step is creating a healthy and happy and joyful lifestyle. Now, notice the words healthy, happy, and joyful. If somebody says you have to exercise and they tell you must do this specific type of exercise and it doesn't work for you, that is not happy and joyful. If you told me to go swimming every day, I would not be happy. Or ride a bike because it hurts my rear end too much. But I like to lift weight, my power walks, and I lift weights. So you need to find two activities where you're strengthening your body and that you enjoy.
Yes.
And then I created a sixth step because this is such a serious concern for women of reducing the side effects of tamoxifen and aromatase inhibitors. And for those of you who don't know what this is, when you're finished with active breast cancer treatment, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery, some combination of those treatments, and you have hormone positive breast cancer, you're placed on one of these two medications, depending on where you are in your hormonal status with your menses. So the side effects of these are really diminishing the quality of life. So first of all, you have to have good quality of life. You can't not be able to get out of bed because your joints ache so badly, right?
Yeah.
So I have created a whole special week just to address that. I call it the special workshop, where we look at the side effects of these medications. What can you do about them, and how can you talk to your oncologist so you're on a dose that works for you and doesn't cripple you, literally.
I love that. That's amazing. Can you talk more about that?
Well, in what area? I mean, there's so much to talk about. So what happens when you take tamoxifen or an aromatase inhibitor, and there are many different types of aromatase inhibitors, and sometimes a woman doesn't do well on one type and she's changed to another type. But the body loves estrogen. And menopause is usually a very slow and gradual metabolic process. It happens between over a year or two, and the estrogen gradually diminishes in your body. But when you're given these drugs, it's sort of like you're put in what I call speedy menopause. And all of a sudden, a process that would happen gradually and slowly in 1 or 2 years is happening in a week, in 2 weeks, in a month.
Wow.
And your body is going, whoa. So there's a lot of intense side effects at the beginning with hot flashes and irritability. And then there's what I call the +5 to 15 pounds syndrome. Your body wants to hold on to adipose tissue or fat and creates it because that's where extra estrogen is stored.
Okay.
So before you know it, maybe you haven't changed how you're eating, but all of a sudden the pants don't fit and you have these little love handles over here,
Right.
which are very hard to get rid of. So, because it's not just about the number on the scale, right? It's a metabolic process. So you need to really change how you're eating and nourishing your body during this time. And you also really need to be on a very targeted supplement protocol and talk to your oncologist. Too many times women suffer, or their oncologist says, oh, just, let's give it another 3 months and see how you're feeling. Okay, if you're suffering and you're not able to get out of bed and you have horrible side effects, let's just give it another 3 months is not appropriate or acceptable way to respond. And the other thing I hear a lot of times is, oh, let's just put you on an antidepressant and see if that helps.
Oh,
ladies, that's not the answer.
Yeah,
that makes me very upset. So if you're being diminished by your doctor with the severity of your symptoms, stick up for yourself, find another doctor if you need to. It needs to be taken very seriously. You're having serious side effects. The response needs to be immediate. Well, maybe we need to give you what is known as a drug holiday. Let's see about changing you to a different medication. I have a way of helping the women I work with talk to their oncologist about doing a smaller dose at the beginning, but you need to clear that with your oncologist. I mean, there's a lot that can be done.
I love that, Carol. I love how straight shooting you are. And this, this is really important for those who are emotional eaters who have struggled with breast cancer, and are in, remission or going through treatment and beyond, because speaking up for ourselves and not letting somebody just tell us how it is without asking the right questions is a problem for us across the board as emotional eaters. We don't use our voice. We tend to like shy away from having tough conversations because we're scared and we want to be liked, and it can cost us big time in our health when we don't have those tough conversations, when we don't give pushback, when in our heart of hearts, we know we need to.
100%. And, if your doctor thinks you're a quote unquote difficult patient, I don't like to use the word patient. I call the women I work with people, but, you want to be proud of that, because that means you're asking a lot of questions and you're not saying, yes, doctor, I'll do this. I mean, it's your life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the more out of the box that you can make yourself with your care and your approach to life and how you eat and the supplements you take, the healthier you will be. Because what you did in the past, when you have a serious chronic disease such as breast cancer, it's your body saying, hi, this isn't working.
Yeah, absolutely. Carol, will you talk about the statistics of recurrence and how, I know the steps you just talked about are, how to prevent recurrence, but what are the statistics and how do people beat those statistics if there's any other information beyond what you've just shared?
Well, the risk of recurrence is greatest within the first 2 to 5 years. So for me, if that happens, you've had a certain type of treatment and then you're not doing any integrative care and you have a recurrence in that time frame, and it does happen, that's an indication your body is saying, hi, the first line of treatment didn't work, right? You're missing something. So this is really important. If you have a recurrence, it's medically appropriate and will be covered by insurance to have certain genomic testing. And there's a couple companies that do that. And unfortunately, I think that should be standard of care. You have a recurrence. Oh, we're going to send a sample of your tumor that we already have to Caris Molecular Intelligence or NeoGenomics or Foundation One or genetics. So unfortunately, that's not done. So this is an education moment. So Caris is spelled C-A-R-I-S.
Okay.
And if you Google that, you'll get to their website, and they have a patient portal where they explain what they do in phrases and terminology that non-science people will understand. If you have a recurrence and your oncologist is not immediately ordering one of these more advanced tests, they need to be called to task, because that is unacceptable. Because the wonderful thing about these tests is, first of all, you get this report where there's all these capital letters and these numbers. And what that is those are specific SNPs that are out of balance or positive for you. And that gives people like me an enormous amount of information, but it gives the doctors the test then says, well, your cancer cells respond to this form of chemotherapy. So you're not getting the wrong form of chemotherapy, number one. And number two, it matches you with any clinical trials, which are
Okay.
really important. So this has saved a lot of lives of several women that I've worked with. They had a recurrence. The doctor didn't order this test. And I said, hi, you need to go back and insist. And they did. And they were put on a different form of chemotherapy, which was a positive result for them. So unfortunately, the women who do the best are the women who are most active and sometimes aggressive in insisting on their care. And don't be concerned or afraid that, oh, they're going to think I'm aggressive, they won't like me. You know what? That's not what you're there for. You are employing them to help you manage a serious chronic disease. Breast cancer is a chronic disease.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And it's a good message. For those who are listening, please share this with your girlfriends. Please share this episode with your girlfriends. They need to hear this information and need to know their alternative treatments and ways to really guard against recurrence. So thank you so much for this, Carol. Now you have something coming up. Will you talk about this?
Sure. In addition to my clinical practice, I have a live group coaching program, which is 6 weeks. And we go through each week is a step like that I just mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting next Tuesday, February 7th. And we meet for 6 weeks on Zoom, and it's a closed group. So everyone has been vetted by me, and it's women only. And the power of the group is really wonderful. And I teach slides about the topic, and then there's handouts. And in addition to the live group coaching, you get the 6 weeks of my library or vault, and you have access to that forever. And in that, there are 6 weeks that match the 6 weeks of the teaching program. I have wonderful women who've done meditations, there's ebooks, there's articles about nutrition, and there's lots of important information that will really support your healing from an integrative and holistic perspective.
I love that. And that's probably good no matter what you're battling, whatever your symptoms. So I love that. And we'll put the link for that in the show notes so you can sign up for that. So thank you, Carol. Your work is amazing. And this is a great way for people to get to know you and what you do. And then you'll know, even better if working with Carol is your next right step, because she is amazing. And as you can tell, she is a lioness and she doesn't stop.
I'm a Leo. I'm a perfect lioness.
I picked the right word then. She's no BS. Like, she will fight for you and fight for you, even when you're not fighting for yourself. So you're going to get possibly your butt kicked by Carol. And that's what we need. We need an advocate. We need somebody who's in our corner, making sure we're making the best choices for ourselves, for our health, and for our families, because guess what? Our families deserve the best version of us. So
100%.
yeah, I love that, Carol. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this important topic. I'm so glad that you took time, in such a busy schedule to come talk about this. And I love the program you have coming up. I'm sure, if somebody's listening later, they can still connect with you through this and learn more about your work and maybe attend another time. So thanks.
100%.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're the best. I just adore you. And ladies, please reach out to Carol. Don't suffer in silence. Don't let somebody tell you what's best for your body. Work with somebody who's really in your core and find out what's best, truly. So blessings to you, Carol. And thanks everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
For tuning in. Take care.
If you enjoyed this podcast and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.